law, the polls need to remain open until 8:30. We can, however, proceed to the next warrant article, so we're not here any later than we need to be. So, being approved, we will move on to Article 3. Are there any objections? Again, the polls remain open. If you have not voted yet, please see the supervisors to get your ballot to do so. Article 3. See if the school district can vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 to be added to the school repair and maintenance capital reserve fund previously established. This sum to come from the June 30th, 2024 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2024. No amount to be raised from taxation. Majority vote required to pass. The Scenic Regional School Board unanimously recommends the passage of this article by a vote of 5-0. The Scenic Advisory Budget Committee does not recommend the passage of this article by a vote of 3-1. I'd like to recognize Dr. Martin for discussion on this article.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The next slide under the capital reserve warrant articles. As of June 30, 2023, the balance was $240,188. We are recommending to add this $150,000 figure to deal with some short-term projects totaling $223,000. This includes LED lighting at Highbridge Hill Elementary School, which will be a cost savings long-term. Parking lot seal coating at Boynton Middle School. The replacement of the hot water boiler system at Scenic Regional High School, ultimately a long-term cost savings as well. And the replacement of a rooftop heating unit at the high school. Actually, the location to be determined. We've been on a rotating basis replacing those units so that there's not to end up with a failure mid-season. They have reached the age. This is one expensive lawnmower at $20,000 that is not just a lawnmower, that is some of our yard equipment, field equipment that is, again, getting pretty close to end of life and is too costly to repair at this point in time. And these are just some ideas that we have and to use some of the capital reserve funding for.
Is there any discussion on this warrant article? All right, if there's no discussion, we'll proceed to Article 4. Adopt a local tax cap. By petition, shall the Scenic Regional School District adopt the provisions of RSA 32, Section 5, lowercase b, and implement a tax cap whereby the governing body or budget committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior fiscal year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than 1.2%. Again, submitted by petition. This requires a 3/5 majority to pass. So I just want to read you a little bit because you're probably not familiar with RSA 32.5, Section B. And it says, in a district or town that has adopted this section, the estimated amount of local taxes to be raised for the fiscal year is shown on the budget certified by the governing body or the budget committee and posted with a warrant. Shall not exceed the local taxes raised for the prior year, is shown on the same budget and adjusted as paragraph 1A by more than the authorized amount. If local taxes raised the prior year were reduced by any fund balance brought forward from previous years, the amount of such reduction shall be added back and included in the amount in which the tax cap is applied under paragraph 1. 2. The tax cap shall either be a fixed dollar amount or a fixed percentage applied to the amount of local taxes raised by the town or district for the prior fiscal year as reported to the Department of Revenue Administration, subject to adjustments as in paragraph 1A. 3, the legislative body may override the cap by the usual procedures applicable to annual meetings and deliberative sessions of the legislative body. The provisions of this section shall not limit the legislative body's authority to increase or decrease the amount of any appropriation or the total amount of appropriations. So the cap is what gets presented to you, but in this session, if people choose to raise or lower that amount, that's up to the will of the people. Is there any discussion on this article? Mr. Rogers.
Ed Rogers, Nova Switch. I'd like to propose an amendment to this article to change the 1.2% to 9%.
I second.
You have that written out, Ed? And do you have a second sign on it?
I do.
Shall we adopt the provisions of RSA 32.5, section lowercase b, and implement a tax cap where the governing body shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by taxes based on the prior year's fiscal actual amount of taxes raised by more than 9%. It's been proposed and seconded. Would you
Yes,
speak to the amendment, please?
Yes, I'm speaking to the amendment.
All right.
First of all, 9% is exactly what we came close to getting, or around what we got, is what I'm very upset with. But my question is, does this require a 3/5 majority as well?
It does. Does the amendment require 3/5?
I'm
No.
asking if Mr. Rogers' amendment requires a 3/5 majority.
No, it just requires a simple majority here of the people.
So if we go down, it requires a 3/5, but if you shoot way up, it requires a simple majority?
When it goes to the vote of the people, it will require a 3/5 majority in March.
Oh, it's at the ballot in March,
That's
not
correct.
here.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I got that.
that's not a problem. Is there further discussion on this?
Ed Rogers again. If I could explain my reasoning behind the 9%. As we saw in the presentation, we have one of our major expenses in this district is benefits. And we saw on the presentation this evening that premiums have gone up 9.1% this year. We have seen in the past go up as much as 15%, as long as I can remember, and perhaps they've gone up by more. We also saw slides addressing state adequacy aid, which unfortunately we have been the victims of reduced adequacy aid from time to time. And it's very, very possible that we could get a year where premiums go up by 15%, state adequacy aid goes down, and that 1.2%, which I'm proposing would be 9%, is addressing local taxes. And if that were to happen, if we were in that position, we would be forced to make drastic cuts that would really damage this district. And that's why I'm proposing 9%.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coffey?
Jim Coffey, Nova Switch. I believe the latter part of what you read from the statute is a safety valve. And if, for some reason, the district needs more than 1.2%, this meeting would handle it and could take care of it. To me, so in my opinion, I think what it means is that it's 1.2%. If you need more, you better come to us and sell us something really good.
Fred Flores from Greenville. Question, I'm not sure who to direct this to, but whether it's, if a cap is adopted, either 1.2% or 9%, in subsequent years to change that, is it the same process and would it need a 3/5 majority vote, or could it be changed by a simple majority?
That would require a 3/5 majority.
You're sure about that?
I'll look at the legal counsel, and she nods her head yes.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Andrews?
Bill Andrews, Ipswich. So to the point about benefits increasing 9%, 15%, et cetera, part of that damage to the town, part of the penalty of those benefits, if I recall several years ago in New Ipswich, after Obamacare had been passed, the town was effectively held hostage and encouraged to add benefits to part-time positions within the school district, which at the time totaled $350,000 a year. I'm sure now that's probably more like $600,000 a year. For teachers' aides that were in the neighborhood of 12 hours a week, which legally we were not required to provide benefits for that level of staffing. However, the pamphlets and the mailings and all the posters that went out to everybody in this town and in Greenville stated that we would be in violation of the law if we didn't pass it. So people passed it out of fear and being basically held hostage that we were going to get sued if we did not pass that. So that's contributing to a lot of this. That contributed, like I said, if I had to estimate, that was, I don't know, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. That was $350,000 net. That's got to be over $600,000 now for those benefits. So this is of our own making. That 9%, 15% is of our own making. Like, we voted for this because we were held hostage, and now we're stuck with it, and now we're saying that 1.2 isn't enough. Well, maybe we should remove those benefits and drop that back down if we need to stay under that 1.2% in the future.
Mr. Bonner, may I speak?
Yes.
I just want to clarify the incorrect information that was just stated. The district does not pay benefits to someone who's working 10 or 15 hours a week. The minimum is they have to be a 0.8 equivalent.
So that's 32 hours?
Correct.
Any further discussion?
John Shabloffel, New Ipswich. I call the question.
You may.
Call the question.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Coffey, thank you. All right, we're going to vote on the amendment that Ed proposed to have a 9% cap instead of a 1.2% cap. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No!
We should have the guys from the basketball game cheering. Would everybody who's in favor please stand?
Hey, Brian.
All right, Cindy, count the middle section. On stage.
Middle is 26. Middle section.
Cindy, do the first section.
Okay, first section.
Are you up?
No.
Just talk to me.
I'm talking to just the middle section.
opposed, please stand.
Okay, you guys in the middle can sit.
Yes, we're all voting.
69 on the section.
Sorry, you said 69?
69.
Thank you. Good number. All right, amendment fails, 105 to 75.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. One of my concerns with the amendment was that with all due respect to Mr. Rogers, I would have preferred a more data-based and information-based amendment. I think we know that state adequacy aid is uncertain at best. But what we do know is what the rising costs of things in our country. And last year, the inflation rate was 3.4%. And the year before, it was 8%. And our district has to keep up with that as a minimum. So I'm offering an amendment to this, which will state that shall the Scenic Regional School District adopt the provisions of RSA 31:5-B and implement a tax cap whereby the governing body or budget committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than 6%, which is approximately the average of the increase in inflation for the last 2 years.
Second. All right, did you get a signature of your second, as well as you?
It's just another lousy one. Just not quite as bad as the other one. Right. Right. They're trying for 6%. Right. Which is just as bad. What was it?
Would you like me to read the article? Shall the Scenic Regional School District adopt the provisions of RSA 32, but this says 31.
I'll correct it.
Boy, where'd John go? Oh. Shall the Scenic Regional School District adopt the provisions of RSA 32, Section 5, lowercase b, and implement a tax cap whereby the governing body or budget committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than 6%.
Hello.
3/5 majority required to pass at the polls in March. Is there discussion on this article?
Fred Flores, Greenville. I rise to oppose the proposed amendment to warrant Article 4. If you're for a local tax cap of 1.2%, then obviously you should oppose this amendment. But if you are against the tax cap in general, in principle, you should also oppose the amendment. If this amendment passes with its more reasonable 6% rate, then you, this body, will have increased the chances of the voters approving a tax cap. If any tax cap is approved, that's a precedent for the future. This could be the camel's nose under the tent, or the first step on a slippery slope, or whatever metaphor you want to use. The school district, you, the taxpayers, may be fighting year after year efforts to lower the tax cap from 6%. I trust the voters in New Ipswich and Greenville to make the correct decision as to the establishment of a 1.2% tax cap. I urge a no vote on the amendment.
Thank you. Marlene?
Marlene Damery, New Ipswich. I'd like to speak to some research that I've done. I am an educator, and I firmly believe that every child deserves an exceptional education that empowers them for future success in college, career, and life. In order to achieve this, we must prioritize highly qualified educators and provide them with the necessary resources to create student-centered learning environments. Unfortunately, tax caps often fail to consider those unavoidable costs and expenses, such as the utilities, the transportation, and that's out of our control. Research has indicated that these limitations on tax revenue actually lead to a decrease in services. That's what we provide. We provide services, rather than promoting efficiency. Despite our best efforts, the current budget constraints compel us to make difficult decisions regarding areas of such as programming, staffing, and extracurricular activities. So there is going to be very tough choices here, and it's not about the utilities. We're going to have to make tough choices. And further, I'd like to say that tax caps exacerbate the existing disparities between communities. Wealthier communities with broader tax bases are more equipped to handle this type of tax cap, while those with fewer resources, such as our community, are left struggling to fulfill our educational mandate. This inequality undermines the goal of providing equal opportunities for all students, regardless of their zip code. So I suggest not to adopt a local tax cap, but I hope that we have a better understanding of it. Thank you.
Rick Miller from Greenville.
Thank you.
I'm opposed to this whole tax cap alternative, primarily because I think it's part of a plan by our education commissioner, who has absolutely no background in education, to try and destroy the public schools system in New Hampshire. And as long as he can keep taking money away from the schools, that's what he wants, because the schools will become smaller and smaller populated and will become even more expensive. I object to this whole tax cap.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the amendment?
Mike Pellerino, New Ipswich. I agree with the previous speaker that this is part of an effort to destroy public education. Many of these petition articles tonight and the amendment on Article 2, I believe, has those motivations. And a simple example of that is last night in this very room, the New Ipswich had their town deliberative session, and the town voted against and amended a petition article that would have made our benefits less attractive to employees, would have constrained the select board of their duties that we elect them to. And here we have petition articles tonight that people are supporting that do that exact same thing to the school board. So I find that hypocritical, so that leads me to think there's other motivations. And that's why I oppose this petition warrant article, but I support these amendments to make this article less impactful to the sacred obligation we have for public education in the United States of America. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the amendment?
Hi, Tim Somro, New Ipswich. I like fiscal responsibility, and I think that this warrant article and the amendment is a way to drive good value for the dollar. I also appreciate Ms. Damery's comments because I know that she does very well in the school. Helps my son in second school now. But I also want to key on Mr. Coffey's comment that there's an escape clause in this RSA 32.5B, so that if there are unexpected circumstances, there's a way for us to allocate money to kids. I'm struggling with one thing and I need help. I want to turn to my elected school board members for help. This adequacy thing, could somebody help just give a simple definition of that so that I can help make an informed decision? Because it sounds like adequacy money, whatever that is variable. And I'd like to use that to understand what's going on.
Mr. Moderator?
Sure.
So when we're referring to state adequacy, it is the dollar amount that the state gives us per student. Right now, it's about $4,100 per student. That number has varied year to year. I believe there's efforts in the legislature right now to increase that, but it has not passed.
Okay. So in more common terms, it would just be tax dollars from the state for kids per kid.
It's a portion of what the state contributes to the local education.
Okay.
There are other factors involved in that as well.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Carter?
Cindy Carter, New Ipswich. Just a point of clarification regarding those funds you discussed. The state allocates $4,000 plus change to each student. Is that in addition to the $18,000 average per student that's the town-based cost, or is that already embedded in that 17, whatever thousand per student we are talking about? The cost of the education per student on the forms was what, $14,000, $15,000, $16,000? 18,000. So is it 18,000 including that state fund, or is the 18,000 plus 4,000, meaning that it's 22,000 per student?
So the chart you're referencing to is the cost to educate each student in our district.
Okay.
The state contributes, with adequacy age, just a portion of what the state provides. It's $4,100 per student. There's other factors involved, such as special education. I don't know if SWEPT is still a valid thing. Ms. Gregory could probably elaborate more on that than I could.
Basically, the state gives, it's $3,700 this year, but for next year's budget, it's $4,182. So the state gives $4,182 to each regular ed student.
Is that included in that $18,000 allocation?
Yes, because the 18 is just expenditures.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Does anybody else want to speak on the question before Mike speaks? Mr. Weber? We'll let Philip speak and then I'll call on you.
Just to clarify the last point of the $18,000 a year, that's the way the state calculates cost per student to normalize across districts, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yes. Basically, at the end of the year, when you close out the year, you do a very complex report called the DOE 25, which takes all of your expenditures from the prior year into a 25-page spreadsheet, which is why they call it the DOE 25. And it calculates a cost per pupil.
Okay. Now, to all of our voters here in town, that number is actually $24,500, give or take, in real terms to the town of New Ipswich, because that number that is provided by the state calculations excludes a whole bunch of other things to try to normalize across districts. Is that correct?
It does exclude certain things, yes.
Okay, so in real numbers, the taxpayers of New Ipswich and Greenville are paying approximately $24,500 per student for fiscal year 25, with the original proposed budget excluding the change that was done today. Is that approximately correct?
I don't have,
Okay, I read the numbers, it is. At 880 students, which is going to be slightly off because that was the 2023 number, it was $24,500, give or take a couple $100. So that means, again, for me, a father of 4 who homeschools, that is nearly $100,000 per year to educate my 4 homeschooled kids that we do at home with one parent, 5 hours a day, $1,500 a year worth of supplies, just for everybody's reference.
Second item, Tom.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to put a little perspective, as I understand it, if this cap was took effect this year, we would have had to have cut the budget by $1 million. Okay, so I mean, we have a tax cap now. It's called the default budget, and it doesn't take 3/5 either. So I mean, if you look at the on page 34 here, I mean, with all the Southwest schools that are there, I mean, we're at the bottom of the list as far as cost per student. So, and that's with these beautiful buildings that we've supplied. So there's been a lot of hard work in the past to keep these numbers down, and it's going to continue through. And the contingency budgets that were cut under Dr. Martin, I mean, when she came in, you know, she did a lot of work in the business department to get things under control, some costs and stuff. And you can see that when you go through, you look at the other schools, and we're doing pretty darn good. I mean, cut $1 million, yeah, it'll happen, but I mean, the fastest way to get to $1 million is you get rid of people. And, you know, that's what 75% of this is people. So that would be the easiest and fastest way to get there. Now, well, the school's still going to be here. I mean, there's still going to be students in here. It's what type of school do you want? I mean, we'll provide you with whatever the people want. But the school is the focal part of the community. This is where everything happens. And I understand the people that don't have people in school, students, you know, they want to cut their tax bill. I'd love to have a tax cap that's reasonable. I pay taxes just like the rest of you. You know, what is the school going to look like this year? Less than $1 million. That's the best way to put it. I mean, and there's going to be kids coming to the door, and we can't refuse anybody that shows up, and they can show up any time of the year they want. And now we're providing services to the charter schools as well. I never thought that full-time kindergarten was going to pass last year. The community wanted it. I mean, you're asking more and more of the schools. That's the cost.
Not me.
No, I understand it's not everybody, but there are people. And there are people that need services. Believe it or not, some of our children they're in pretty rough shape in this community. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to move the question.
All right. Is there a second? Betty, thank you. All right. All those in favor of the amendment to make the tax cap 6%, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. Please use a reasonable voice when you vote. All those in favor, please stand. Thank you. You may sit down. All those opposed, please stand. Carol. do the middle section and that section. You do that section, Cindy. Middle section may sit down. Everybody can sit down. All right, the motion fails. (107 to 65). Is there further discussion on the original article?
Yep, Mike Potter. Some interesting points were brought up during that discussion that I didn't get to talk about before the movie, the motion, but very interesting, right? We're starting to learn about that the state pays adequacy funding, $4,100 per student. And I made mention during Article 2 that there's easy ways to do this and there's harder ways, right? The state lost a lawsuit that says that $4,100 is not adequate. So they're starting to reevaluate things. I encourage everyone here who wants to lower their taxes to reach out to their state reps and see what they're doing to help improve the situation in our town. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on the article? All right, we'll proceed to Article 5. So I will declare the polls closed, and I will have Carol and Cindy. Carol, will you count the Greenville? Cindy, will you count the New Ipswich?
Right.
Article 5, establish a cooperative school budget committee. By petition, shall the Messina Regional School District adopt the provisions of RSA 32:14 and RSA 195:12, lowercase a, to establish a cooperative school budget committee. Again, submitted by petition. So RSA 32:14 merely says, go see, if you have a cooperative school district, go see RSA 195:12A. Although it does have one other piece of information in there, and it says, if the vote is favorable, the town or district shall, at the same meeting or by other means, determine the number of members at large as provided by RSA 32:15, and whether they shall be elected or appointed by the moderator. So in a cooperative school district in year 1, the positions would be appointed by moderator, and then they would be elected according to how we elect school board members. 3-year terms rotating, so initially there would be some 1-year terms, 2-year terms, and 3-year terms for those members, and then there will also be a member from the school board who would be on the committee. Uh, 195:12 adds that whenever it is voted to establish a budget committee, the moderator in the first instance shall appoint the committee within 15 days of the vote. And then at the next annual meeting, they shall be, those positions, people will run for them just like they run for the school board, and they would be elected to the positions. After appointment on the election, the budget committee shall then properly organize and choose a chairperson, a vice chair, and a secretary. The secretary shall keep the records of the proceedings of the budget committee, which shall be public records and open to public inspection. And the school budget, cooperative school budget shall have the powers and duties of a municipal budget committee under the provisions of RSA 32, and they shall budget, they shall make the school district budget. And it won't be the school board who would make the budget. Such a committee shall provide the cooperative school board with a sufficient number of copies of the budget that it prepares, and it should be the same as posted with a warrant. So the responsibility for the budget would shift 100% from what we have today, the Budget Advisory Committee, to working with the school board to be just the budget committee. There's also some constraints on how much you can raise a budget in a deliberative session when you have a budget committee. So, is there any, would the petitioner like to say anything on the warrant first? Jesus? Should be.
In order to ensure the integrity...
State your name.
Oh,
town, please.
Jesus Cantu Trevino, New Ipswich.
Thank you.
In order to ensure the integrity of the schools and make sure that the school board focuses on the academics and the rigor at the classroom, it is essential in order for us to establish a separate body for checks and balances. I'm in favor of establishing a cooperative school budget committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan Boulay, Greenville.
Thank you.
We've done this dance a couple years back. We're talking about the advisory committee. Back then it was 40 unanimously by both towns. There needed reduction in the power of our voted school board. So I make an amendment to this. Shall the Scenic Regional School Board, school district not adopt the provisions of RSA 3214 and RSA 19512A to establish a cooperative school budget committee.
Kathleen? Kathleen, do you think that's a legal amendment?
I think the intent of the amendment is to change the article to keep what you have, which is an advisory budget committee. And I think if it was worded that way, it's a permissible amendment. It's the same subject.
All right, we're going to pause for a moment, and we're going to have a discussion offline.
Roger? Peter. Yeah, Peter the road agent.
Roger's son.
Yeah, yeah. He's your brother, right?
So if you want to have an amendment to say, continue the way we are, then that's what the amendment should say. We should not put the word not in the amendment.
Alright, so here's Shelby Scenic Regional School District maintain the existing budget advisory committee.
Second.
All right, would you sign that? And get your second to sign it? Okay, the amendment reads, shall the Scenic Regional School District maintain the existing budget advisory committee? Is there discussion on the amendment?
Jason Zomro, New Ipswich. As a selectman for the past 3 years, I would be in favor of this both for the school and for the town. One of the things that we are rightly accosted with is we kick the can down the road. The budget takes up a tremendous amount of time. At the school, we're looking, at the town, we're looking at a $3 million. This is a 20-some-odd million dollar. I can't imagine how much effort would be put for the selectmen to be doing, what I say, selectmen things, and for the school board to be looking over the academics, the discipline, and those things. So I am in support of the original.
Thank you.
Jesus Scott Lucarino, New Ipswich. RSA 197:6, warrant and articles. Corrections to the petition warrant articles shall not in any way change the intended effect of the article as presented in the original petition.
So that's when it's placed on the warrant. So the school board can't change it in any way other than to correct it from a proper perspective to present the warrant article.
Changing the cooperative school budget committee to an advisory, would that be changing the intent?
It is changing the intent, it is not changing the subject matter. So there is a difference there. You are allowed to change the intent, you are not allowed to change the subject matter. Okay. So we're dealing with budgeting, and whether it's a budget committee or a budget advisory committee.
That's good, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Jamie Gisman, New Ipswich. Just curious, can we clarify what a no vote would mean? Because it sounds like a no vote would actually remove all that budgeting advisory committee.
So the amendment is that we would have a budget advisory committee. If it's a yes, no, that amends the article to be that there will just be status quo, there would be a budget advisory committee. A no vote would return us, positive no vote would return us to the original petition article.
Yeah, that effectively disbands the budget advisory committee if there was a no vote on that.
Sorry, I need you to come to the microphone if you want to make comments. Sorry.
Sorry, to clarify myself for the March vote, say if this passed, if the amendment passed, but then March we voted no, would that disband the advisory budget committee?
That would be up to the school board to decide. Because the school board appoints the budget advisory committee today.
Could we have a legal opinion on that? If the vote was, if it was the shall maintain the advisory budget committee and the voters in March said no, what happens? You said that the refer to the advisory, but I wonder if the attorney should address whether the vote no on shall maintain the advisory budget committee would in fact eliminate the advisory budget.
Kathleen?
I think the school board would still choose to appoint an advisory committee if it so chooses.
All right, further discussion on the amendment?
Dan Heath on the web switch. I was on the advisory budget committee for the school board. All the advice, as advice is, like if you go to your doctor and do this for your wound or your headache, take this medicine. The school board did not listen to any recommendations that we had during the advisory budget committee hearings. So an advisory committee, we basically got laughed at, mocked at, snicked at, and if you want the proof, December 18th, go to the SAU website, pull up a video of the December 18th advisory budget committee presentation. And the camera pans right to the school board, and you can see their eyes rolling, they're snickering in the faces and stuff. So an advisory committee will not work. Advisory committee can advise. School board has voted 5-0 in opposition of everything we even presented. And they always go 5-0, 5-0. You look in the past years, it's always been 5-0. School board doesn't go one iota of the advisory committee. A school board budget committee would have the ultimate say where the dollar hits the road.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Pellerino, the web switch. The advisory budget committee has worked. What was just described was a one-off experience. In the first year of the advisory budget committee, the committee is the one who made suggestions to create some of the capital reserve accounts we have today, which are wise planning purposes for some of the expenses that come up in the district. The school board supports the advisory budget committee. It gives, and even like the selectman said, there's a tremendous job for the school board to come up with the school board budget, and that's what we elect them to do. You know, the school board has one employee. That is the superintendent. That is how school boards are designed in New Hampshire. The school board's job is not to run discipline for the schools. It's to approve the academic curriculum and to be the stewards of the taxpayers' money and budgets, which if you review over the past 5, 6, 7 years, we've had budget increases less than 1%. I believe one year was 0.2%. Forgive me if I was wrong, but we've had percentage increases that were often around the 1% or less. The school board has been very responsible. I served on the school board. I've agreed and disagreed with members of the school board who are sitting here today, but they have been responsible. And these people do an admirable job. We have professionals that run the administration. It's a $20 million business, regulated like every other district in the nation. We have a responsibility to be good stewards of it and to comply with the laws of the land. And if we continue to do these chip away, chop off $1 million, cap this, make it Monday morning quarterbacks, come up with the budget, you will destroy the schools. And do your taxes go down? They do not. If this school gets destroyed and closes, then public education, we tuition our kids to another district where we lose all voting authority over what happens. Just pay the tuition to send your kids. Not everybody's going to homeschool. Not everybody agrees with you that homeschool provides the best education to provide for successful life experiences. So there are consequences to chipping away like this, and establishing a budget committee of people who don't work year-round to pay attention like the school board does is not a wise decision. If we want to continue down this path, your taxes won't go down. And your kids are going to ride buses, maybe to Conval, maybe to Keene. Which district will take us? And will they treat your students like they treat the students of their own district when you're busing your kids maybe to Milford every day? Maybe they have a short ride to school today, but when we start tuitioning our kids to a public school district in another area, your kids are going to have a longer bus ride. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Joshua Chitwood, New Ipswich. I moved to this town about 3 years ago after doing some research. I'm an active duty Marine for 20 years. I retire next month. And I say that because I did research. I hail from Tampa, Florida. My old lady from San Diego, California. Did a bunch of research here in the Northeast and chose New Ipswich to settle down with our 4-year-old son. I also sit at a local school board of directors. I'm the president and chair of a school here in southern New Hampshire currently. My first meeting was the budget committee meeting that I went to up on the hill. And I just wanted to say and kind of give my perspective on that. Come in and want to change, and it's okay, we all in the same room, we're not all going to agree on everything, and that's perfectly fine, and that's what these are for, because at the end of the day, it's about the next generation and the children, and what we're going to do and provide them. I found it utterly appalling, like he said, the way Madam Chair acted during that meeting with the smirks, the snickers and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, you're elected by the people, and it's our voices, whether you agree or disagree, ma'am, that matters. There's not a side in it.
Please address.
Yeah, I'm getting to my point, thank you. And with that said, and then watching the IT department talk to the board, and I believe it just comes down to time, and you guys didn't have adequate time to go over a budget and produce a budget worthy, because when an IT department is asking for $300,000 for computers, and he said, he was asked by the board, well, what are you going to do with these computers? And the answer was, I haven't thought that far yet, but I know the kids need this and we can do something. And then 2 seconds later it goes to vote and it's approved. That's ludicrous. That is not being good stewards of the money and having a plan to make better to give better education to our children. So that's why, with the time and allocations of resources that you guys are already constrained by, from what I'm hearing from both sides, that's why I'm in favor of establishing a cooperative school budget committee.
I like to keep things simple, and I'm just wondering if you can help me. I don't think we need the amendment. I think if we want a budget committee, we can vote no on this. If we want the budget committee, you vote yes. If you want the advisory committee, you vote no. You don't really need the amendment, do you?
Well, there's an amendment on the table.
I know the reason.
So we have to vote on that first.
I know, but could we have done it without the amendment?
No. Well,
why not? Because if you voted no on this, it's going back to the way it was, which the amendment is trying to do.
So if you vote no on the amendment, yes, it will go back to the original article. That is correct.
No, I'm saying if you had just the original article and you vote no on that, it goes to the budget, to the advisory committee. If you vote yes, it goes to the budget committee. You don't really need the amendment. That's what my thinking is.
Well, I guess someone didn't want to wait for the voters to vote in March. They want to change it now.
Mitch Glenn, New Ipswich.
Thank you.
I was not on the advisory committee this year because I was out of the country, but the previous 2 years I was on the committee. I chaired the advisory committee. My experience was very different. The advisory committee got into multiple discussions with the administration and the superintendent. They took our feedback and our comments seriously, went back to the table, did some more work, but we felt that there was a true partnership in establishing the budget, and I think we came out with a really good product that everybody felt good about. And I just wanted to put that out there since there was a previous comment that the advisory committee never got cooperation from the school district.
Thank you, Mitch. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this article before Jesus speaks again?
Yeah.
Then please come forward. Thank you, sir.
Can we move the question?
Well, there was somebody, so you don't want to hear Jesus' comments.
Go ahead, Jesus, but can we move the question after?
Thank you. Amendment has been proposed.
That's correct.
I propose that those that are in favor for the original to vote no on the amendment.
Thank you.
Can we move the question?
Your name is?
Jay Hopkins, Northwich.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Coffey, thank you. All right, all those in favor of the amendment?
We've done this up 3 or 4 times, sir. When we move the question, we have to vote on that first, right?
We are trying to do that.
Because we haven't done it yet. We were voting, the vote on the floor now should be, do you agree to move the question, right? Just 2 people can't just...
Sure, okay, we can do that. All those in favor of moving the question, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Thank you, sir.
Solved the problem.
All those in favor of the amendment, which says, shall the Messina Regional School District maintain the existing budget advisory committee, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no.
No.
All right. All those in favor, please stand. Carol, can you do the right side, left side? Please be seated, thank you. All those opposed, please stand. You want to do the middle, Carol? Thank you. The amendment fails, 95 to 82. Mr. Sabaro.
Yes, I'm wondering, do you have the vote count on the budget?
Well, I want to finish with this article first.
Oh, I thought we were done.
Well, we're back to the original article. Is there any further changes to the petition warrant article? All right. If there are none, then we'll move on to the vote count on Article 2, the budget. All those in favor, the vote was 130. All those against, 90. So the budget will be reduced to 20 million and those other numbers. 20,453,537. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, I would like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I would like to move in accordance with RSA 40:10. I move the reconsideration of Article 2 be restricted.
All right. Is there a second? I'm sorry, your name is? Thank you, Becky. All right. Paul? So what Jim Coffey has proposed is that we will not revisit this article tonight or any other time unless we adjourn the meeting for some reason. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration of Article 2, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No.
That's an easy one.
Would all those in favor, please stand.
Easy one.
Makes it down. The article passes 108 to 45. All right, we'll move to Article 6. Elimination of superintendent position. By petition, shall the Scenic Regional School District adopt the provisions of RSA 194-C:5, Section 2, lowercase a, and eliminate the superintendent position and assign superintendent services under RSA 194-C:4 to one or more existing administrative personnel working full or part-time. And this is submitted by petition. So just let me read you, since we're all fluent in 194C-5. The school board of each school administrative unit shall meet between April 1st and June 1st in each year at a time and a place fixed by the chairpersons of several boards, and shall organize by choosing a chairperson, a secretary, and a treasurer. Each school administrative unit shall provide superintendent services to be performed as required by RSA 194-C:4. School districts shall not be required to have a superintendent and may assign these services to one or more administrative personnel working full or part-time, or such services may be independently contracted. The state board may establish certification requirements for superintendents in smaller and larger districts, and may designate services in addition to those established in RSA 194-C:4. Other administrative positions may be established, but only after a 50% vote of the school districts or the school administrative units representing everyone. The school board of each school administrative unit shall fix the salaries of the school administrative unit personnel, shall apportion the expense of the salaries and benefits among several school districts if they exist, and shall certify appointment to their respective treasurers and to the State Board of Education. The school administrative unit board shall have the authority to remove superintendents and other administrators. This has been the law for nearly 30 years. Superintendent services, 194-C:4. Each school administrative unit or single school district shall provide the following superintendent services: an educational mission, which indicates how the interest of the pupils will be served under the administrative structure. Governance, organizational structure and implementation of administrative services, including but not limited to payroll, cash flow, bills, records, files, accounts, reporting requirements, funds management, audits, coordination with the treasurer, and advisory boards on policy as necessary for compliance with all state and federal laws regarding purchasing, recruitment, supervision, evaluation of staff, labor contract negotiation support, and processing of grievances, arrangement for mediation, fact-finding, arbitration, management of all employee benefits, and procedural requirements, development, review, and evaluation of curriculum, coordination of the implementation of various curricula, provisions of staff training and professional development, development and recommendation of policies and practices necessary for compliance relating to curriculum and instruction, compliance with laws, regulations, and rules regarding special education, Title IX, the Americans with Disabilities Act, home education, minimum standards, student records, sexual harassment, and other matters may come up from time to time. Pupil achievement assessment through grading and state and national assessment procedures, and the method of assessments to be used. The ongoing assessment of district needs relating to the student population, program facilities, and regulations, writing, receiving, disbursement, and meeting all federal, state, and local compliance requirements. Oversight of the provisions of insurance, appropriate hearings, litigation, and court issues. School board operations and the relationship between the board and district administration. the daily administration and provisions of educational services to students at the school facility, including but not limited to legal affairs, staff, student, parent safety, building issues, dealing with citizens at large, assignment, usage, maintenance of administrative and school facilities, designation of number of grade and age levels as applicable, and other information about students to be served, pupil governance and discipline, including age-appropriate due process procedures, administrative staffing, pupil transportation, annual budget, inclusion of all sources of funding, school calendar arrangements, and the number and duration of days pupils are to be served pursuant to RSA 189.1, identification of consultants to be used for various services. And that doesn't list all the things the state's heaped on us and the federal government has heaped on us. So with that, I'd like to open discussion on this article.
Aurora Souza, Greenville. I am currently a senior at Messinic High School. As someone who is directly affected by all of these articles, I think by approving this article or voting yes on it, we would be extremely irresponsible as citizens in this district. I think that dispersing the administrative duties of a superintendent to multiple people could only cause chaos and disorganization, and I think it would be extremely challenging to find others that would be able to perform all of those duties, especially working with other people with other opinions. Obviously, superintendent decisions and opinions are open to scrutiny for anyone, but deciding to completely void that position would be irresponsible and it would hurt the students currently attending schools. Thank you.
Jay Hopkins, Norwich. Thank you. Well said. You may have issues with a particular superintendent, but I don't think that is reason enough to eliminate a superintendent's position. So I would like that to be thought.
Susan Victorino, New Ipswich. No school district shall be required. It's obviously been assessed, and if the research has been done, it's been done everywhere else. We already have superintendent duties that are being performed by personnel, existing personnel. The superintendent position has failed the parents, has failed the students, has failed the school district, just like the school board has also failed. So for that, I am in favor of eliminating the superintendent position.
Thank you.
John Shawlawful, New Ipswich. Question for the petitioners who haven't provided detail in this. May I pose that through the moderator?
I don't know who the petitioner was. I'm sorry that I wasn't privy to that information. If the petitioner is present, would like to say anything?
Would the petitioners please address their plan on which duties would be given to which administrator? That would be one question. The other question is that since the known administrators, many are in the room, their emails are publicly available, have the petitioners taken the time to find out if those employees would actually accept the duties, or whether or not that would cause them to leave the district? The petitioner, please, or representative for the petitioner, answer that question for the audience.
Duties are already performed by existing
please come to the microphone. I'm sorry, we would need to require you to use the microphone. There are people who are hearing challenged in the audience.
We already have existing personnel that can perform those duties and are actively performing those duties. Payroll. Any more? More of them? Administrative duties.
Let's not have a conversation through the microphone.
I apologize. Yeah, I think if they have more questions, they should probably come. But that is, they did want an example, and payroll is one of them. Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right.
Mike Pellerino, New Ipswich. My batting average tonight isn't very well, but I'm here again. They said that about people in 1775 as well, so I stand proud.
All right, Mike.
This is a bad idea. This is another example of you do away with the superintendent, you're making the job less palatable to our administrators who do more with less, do more with less. How are we going to attract people to make our students be the most successful they can be? How are we going to have good stewards when people are doing more with less, being stressed? This is another example of chipping away at education. It's shameful. It's shameful. And the school board has not failed. The administrators have not failed. I'm sorry I disagree with those previous statements. This is a fool's errand. Perhaps it's the influence of the Free State movement to dismantle education. For what purposes, I don't know, other than just chaos and control.
Subjective. Have you spoken on this yet, John? All right, so we'll let Tina speak first.
Tina Hood, New Ipswich.
Thank you.
In corporate America, we do more with less all the time. In fact, jobs are eliminated, duties are spread out, and at the bottom of everyone's job description, it says, in all of the duties as assigned. Now, we have a problem. This school system spends a ton of money. And when you break it down per student, it is absolutely outrageous for what we get. Absolutely outrageous. And quite frankly, it's sinful, the amount of money that's wasted. It is a waste. We need to do more with less, just like corporate America does. And stop throwing money at something that's not working good. Thank you.
I vote to move the question.
All right. Is there a second? Mr. Coffey?
I'd like to comment.
Mr. Eaton, you have a point of order? Well, that's true. So there's nothing really to vote on at this point in time. So there's nothing to move. Yes, sir.
I look at this and say...
Name and town, please.
Sean Bader, New Ipswich.
Thank you.
I look at this and say, superintendent, it's just a word that requires a specific guideline that we have to choose from. So when you look at, I'm going to get a new superintendent because I don't like the one I have. I'm going to have to fit this bill. But we may have somebody right here that's perfectly qualified, way more qualified, could do the job 100 times better than the person who's here. But they don't have this qualification. So by removing that title, it opens up opportunity to get better things for less. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to move to the next one up. If I can say it that way.
So,
I second.
So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. We're open to discussion.
Jessica Hopkins, New Ipswich. I'd like to comment on this. I personally don't like that it's come to this, but after multiple attempts to speak with the school board members about our concerns with our current superintendent, we feel like we have no choice, our hands are tied. There are issues with accountability and structure and morals with our current seated position, and so that's part of why it has come to this.
Thank you.
Gretchen Smith from New Ipswich. As they were saying, if you have an issue with the superintendent, I don't think we should be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think if you look at the responsibilities of a superintendent, the job is rather immense. And I don't think that we are going to ever find a human being or groups of human beings that are willing to take on all of these responsibilities for less money. If you look at our district, we are probably one of the lower paying teachers in our district, and you look at the quality of education that is offered to our children, we lack the best teachers because we don't pay our teachers. There is no reason to stay here and do your job as an educator. I know that a lot of people are like, homeschool. Absolutely, I get that you want to homeschool, but you don't like the way the education is going in our schools. But I ask you to think about, why is it that you do not like our district? Is it because we don't always have the top quality teachers here? And you have to say to yourself, why do we not have the top quality teachers here? Why do we not have them stay? And if you think about those teachers that are mass exiting their jobs, it's because they are underappreciated by the parents whose kids are being sent here for 8 hours of the day. I understand that you might not be happy with our superintendent, but you want to think about, why are we not always able to get the top quality people that do these jobs phenomenally? It is because we are stingy. We are not willing to pay people for the education that they have earned to better your child's lives. We're not asking you to, I don't know, I want people to realize that teachers are not here for paychecks. We are here because we often love our teaching job. But it is definitely becoming less of that as we are being underappreciated and dumped on and wanting to do more for less. We have degrees. I've spent a large amount of money to get my master's degree so that I can teach the children under me the best that I can, to raise them to be a contributing member of society. So I can help the students to be thinkers. That's my job. And I just want to say, we're not paying well.
Thank you, Richard.
So just so folks know, I don't always like Dr. Martin either, some days.
Please, no personal attacks.
Thank you. So, there are many challenges here. However, I am proposing an amendment to this warrant article. The amendment will read, shall the Scenic Regional School District retain the superintendent position? Period.
Do you have a second?
Sure.
Yes, that's a legal amendment. All right, the amendment reads, shall the Messina Regional School District retain the superintendent position? Is there any discussion on this article, the amendment?
I have a minor question.
Yes, sir.
If this amendment passes and it appears on the ballot, and we vote no on this, have we eliminated the superintendent's position?
No.
But we would be not be voting to retain the position.
Well, I understand it, but it's all advisory.
This doesn't work out grammatically in English too well.
I understand that.
Okay. I think it's just a point of order. I mean, if you have me vote whether or not I want to retain something, and I vote no, then I would be getting rid of it.
This amendment is advisory to the school board. The school board may choose to have a superintendent or not have a superintendent.
Legal counsel, please.
Kathleen?
It's getting later.
It is my opinion that the article, as originally submitted, is an advisory article, that it is ultimately the school board that decides how to organize and structure its administration. And it can take the will of the voters into consideration, but ultimately it would be an advisory article as originally written. And likewise, the amendment would have the same effect. It would still be an advisory.
Mr. Sondra.
Yeah, Jason Sondra of such. It sounds to me like that's one legal counsel's opinion. I think, should this be rejected by the school board in the event that it passed, there would be other legal counsel involved.
Thank you. Tina?
Tina Hood, Ipswich. So, someone said that because the pay here is not good, that the teachers are not good, and therefore the education is not good. So, no, that's what it sounded like. So, in other words, they're saying that pay is commensurate with the quality of the education that you're going to get, which essentially discounts the education that charter schools, church-run schools, and other private schools that run on shoestring budgets, but have students with scores off the charts. So it doesn't correlate. It does not correlate. It is easy enough to have the duties of the superintendent done by other people. There are these things called meetings where people can sit down and coordinate what each person has done and make sure that all the duties have been done. It's a neat concept. You can even do it on Zoom. It's phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Wrong. Does anybody else wish to speak on the, oh, you haven't spoken on the amendment, go ahead.
Aurora Souza, Greenville. So I would like to say I do believe that this amendment in a way is redundant. I believe that if you would like to keep the superintendent position, vote on it in March. Vote against this in March. But I would also like to point out that the superintendent is the highest on the ladder in terms of administrative power. Dividing that between multiple people would cause absolutely nothing but chaos. And I also don't believe that there would be many people willing, especially people here, willing to take on all of that responsibility. It takes a very certain person, and it takes a certain level of education. And I know my principal could never. She is a working mother. She is about to have another baby. She is already swamped With the high school, there is absolutely no way that that woman could take on the responsibilities of a superintendent. And I don't believe that there are many people out there that would be willing to work with other people at that high of a level of power. And also on the teachers not being paid enough, I will say personally, in just the couple of years that I have been at the school, I've been in the school district all my life, but in just the couple of years that I have been at the high school, I have seen multiple teachers who absolutely love their job here leave and go to other schools because they cannot make a living on what they are being paid here. There is only so much that our school can offer, and by decreasing that, you are limiting the amount of people that would be willing to work here. I have seen firsthand many teachers having to take on other jobs, other responsibilities, because we are not able to give them what they need to live. So I would just like to say that I don't think that passing off these responsibilities to other people without, having a specific job and a specific pay for it, I don't understand the concept of getting more for less, as these people have lives, they have families, they have children to take care of. They need a certain amount of pay, and they need to be able to make a living off of that pay. And I don't believe that stretching them as thin as possible to put these responsibilities on them is a responsible decision on any of our parts. Thank you.
Hello, Alex Adrone from Ipswich. My family and I moved here late in 2020, left from metropolitan Boston area. Weren't happy with the way things were going in the public school system there. We thought that things may be a little bit better here. This isn't to put Ms. Martin down at all. We did exchange some words briefly while my daughter was attending the middle school here. I couldn't really put up with the way things were going in the school here. Had to take my daughter out. Now I had to pay $200 a week to a private homeschool system that offered a much better education. Subsequently, I found a better school that costs about costs less than what the students that are compensated here per year annually, much less than that to put her in a school where she gets a much better education, gets a great social environment. And all I want to say is that, I'm a little appalled that my taxes have gone up and I've seen the quality of education go dramatically down. I don't think it's fair that anyone in this room should have to pay for me to put my daughters in a private school or in a home school. And I also don't think it's fair that anyone here is taking my tax dollars and other people in this room's tax dollars to pay for this. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Any further discussion on the amendment?
No.
Proceed.
Alicia Hall, New Ipswich. Fundamentally, what I have learned listening to everyone's comments is there is a confusion between what our public school systems are intended for. It is not a for-profit venture. Therefore, business models should be excluded. We are not trying to make a profit. We are trying to educate our children. Part of being a community is paying into the taxes that we all benefit from. It is a social contract that we have signed when we decided to move to New Ipswich. Yes, taxes are the big factor here. It sounds like this particular warrant article is more of a personal vendetta. If you have a personal issue, I'm sorry, but maybe you should be an adult and talk to the person instead of trying to curtail what the business a school is intended for. A public school is here to teach and educate our children. Some of us are not privileged enough to have a one-income family and have the wife, because it's not you, sir, that is teaching.
The moderator.
How about
Please come to order. Please speak to the issue and not the individuals.
The issue is there is a fundamental misunderstanding of what the public school system is. We are here to better the future education, the future of our kids. And that means we have to invest in them. We are investing in ourselves because guess what? 20 years down the road, it's them here, okay? And we need, we need to invest into, do not mansplain to me. I'm sick of that.
Please, Brian, please sit down.
He is over here.
Please sit down behind you.
We need to understand that we need to educate our children with the money that is available to us. If anything, the most of our money should be undisputably put towards our children's education. And if you are privileged enough to have other options, great, fabulous. But guess what? You are still a citizen of this community and you still have to pay your taxes. Thank you.
Second time, I'd like to move the warrant article from number 6 to number 7.
Well, we can't do that. We have an amendment on the table. If you want to move the discussion.
No, I want to move to a vote, whatever it takes. If it gets complicated, just vote.
You'd like to move the question?
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Coffey, all right? All those in favor of the amendment, which is shall the Mechanic Regional District retain the superintendent position, say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Please stand if you're in favor of the amendment. Thank you. May you be seated. Please. All right, all those who are against the amendment, please stand. All right, I'm going to declare that's a vote against it. We don't need to count. Thank you. All right, the amendment fails. So back to the original question. Is there any further discussion on the warrant article?
Motion to move it. Steve Spratt, Greenville.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak against the elimination of the superintendent position. Not long ago, or it seems an hour ago or more, you read the responsibilities of the superintendent. A lot of what I've heard tonight has been based on cost and money. Of the responsibilities assigned to the superintendent, I would suggest that a vast majority of them have legal implications. If you spread out the duties of the head of an organization, you wind up, as the student so carefully put, a real catastrophe. let's look at some of the things that this superintendent is in charge of. When you start thinking about IEPs, or your out-of-district placements, or bullying, or any of those, the amount that you pay the superintendent could be eaten up with 1/4 of one lawsuit. Secondly, if you think you're going to save money on a superintendent, you have to understand that under just the rules, the normal rules of business, if you assign additional responsibilities to someone, you are going to have to pay them more. Does it take 4, 5, 6, 7 to do all those tasks? Remember, you referenced the law was 30 years old. This is not the world that we live in today. The amount of regulation that comes down daily from state, federal, the Education Commission, whatever, is almost asymptotic. Somebody has to deal with that. Now, if you're worried about saving money, this is not going to do it. You will have to find qualified applicants, you will have to pay them, and they will have to do business by consensus. That's why we have a superintendent whose full responsibility, fiscal and educational, rests on her or his shoulders. So to do this, to take an amendment and eliminate the superintendent position, it's not a zero-sum game. It's a loss. There is no way over time that a committee can do what one person can do who has the final say and right in enforcing the laws that are placed upon the educational system. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this article? No. John?
So the plan here for the warrant article, as I read it, I'm going to ask for possibly legal opinion on this one, is that the duties of the superintendent would be assigned to one or more existing administrative personnel working full or part-time. We know exactly who those existing administrative personnel are. We know their names. It's part of the public record. If those existing administrative personnel refuse the duties or leave the district, then who would those duties go to? Because those individuals are no longer existing. This doesn't speak to roles, it speaks to personnel. And that was the object of that motion, which is my modification, because this is fatally flawed, because it appears to be based on individuals and not roles. And it doesn't take into account that those things change, and those change at the direction of the school board, among other things, as well as individuals' choice. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the article? No. Seeing none, we'll proceed to Article 7. Acceptance of reports. Shall the Messina Regional School District accept the reports of agents, auditors, committees, or other officers chosen? This article is not amendable. Is there any discussion? Is there any other business to be brought before this meeting? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Coffey makes that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Heusler. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.